Well, good evening, early evening that is, and welcome to the People's Voice and the Nonpartisan Howard County Citizens Association for co-hosting the forum tonight. Thank all the candidates for making it out this evening, and I know this is a very busy season for you folks, and this is greatly appreciated. Got the key instructions for the candidates first. Each of you will have a 2-minute opening, and questions will be 90-second answers. So you'll have a limit of 90 seconds. We'll rotate the first answer around the table. So the first question comes up is going to go to Kevin Chin. Then it'll go to James Hamilton, down the line. So each of you will get a chance to answer a question first. You won't be going, oh, by the way. So you'll get that opportunity to express your opinion first on the questions that come up. So it's very important that you stay focused on the questions. We ask there not be rebuttals and there not be conversations back and forth between the candidates. As you can see, there's a lot of you here, limited time. Please stay focused on the questions because they're who you're talking to. They want to know what you have to say. Also, when you answer questions, it's going to sound strange, please stand up with the microphone. The microphones are set up, they're always on. So if there's crosstalk, you may pick them up. Do not push any buttons or grip it funny way. It'll work perfectly. Just pick it up and stand up when you answer your questions because that way we see you and not the back of people's heads in the video. Tonight we are videotaping this. It is not live streamed, but we will post the video later on. For those who couldn't be here tonight, we'll get to see you guys later. ACC will be posting 2 or 3 questions depending on activity. We may just ask 2 tonight because we do have quite a crowd here. And our intention is to let them ask you the questions. Christy's going to be your timekeeper. You might recognize Christy from the other forum the other night. She's got cards. She will hold up 30 seconds. That means whether it's 2 minutes or 90 seconds, you've got 30 seconds left in your time. And then there's the red one. That means stop. Okay? Yeah. Now, I don't mean coast. I mean stop. Please. It's not like driving. This is like, we got to get to the next question and the next set of answers from people. I covered the stand-up part because Brent told me to make sure I covered that. The other thing is for the audience. Okay, you're going to ask questions tonight. We need you to present precise, concise questions. We don't have time for your background story or why you're asking the question, or why is the sky blue. If you have a question, please present the question. Wait for the answers. They all don't have to answer. If they choose not to answer, that's their choice. But I'm tracking to make sure everybody gets an opportunity to answer your questions. So we ask you to state your name, your address, or the district you're from, and simply present the question. If you go into a long dissertation or stuff, I will start making noise. All right? Because again, we are in limited time here. And with that, are there any questions from the candidates about tonight's situation? Yes, sir.
So when we do the introduction, we can see it.
No, I prefer you stand up so we can see you. You will also get a 2-minute end of discussion. So each of you will get 2 minutes at the end to follow up, follow what you have to say, and wrap it up for that way. So with that in mind, we'll start here with Kevin. Please stand up, and your 2 minutes start now, Christy.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for hosting us. So my name is Kevin Chen, and I'm running for Howard County Council, District 1. I live in Ellicott City with my wife and my 13-month-old son. My day and night job is as an ER doctor. And I became a doctor for a simple reason. I wanted to make the world a better place. And I'm running for county council for that same reason. I'm a lifelong Democrat. I love my party, and I love my country. And the Democratic Party is a fight about the direction of the party. But after the 2024 election, I was worried about the direction of our country, but I was also worried about the direction of our party that I care so much about. We face an affordability crisis in Maryland. The lack of affordability is driving working families out of Maryland. Our comptroller, Brooke Learman, released a report last October which said that every year we're losing tens of thousands of working-age people to other states because of that lack of affordability. This affects our local and state economy and leads to our inability to fund our schools, resulting in higher class sizes and teacher cuts. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Educators Union, as well as Delegate Chow Wu, State Senator Clarence Lam, and Register Wills Byron McFarland. Last summer I was at a rally in support of our schools, and I spoke with a teacher, Caroline. She's spending half of her income on rent in downtown Columbia because she loved the walkability of the area. More than half of our teachers live outside the county, and we need to support our teachers and other essential workers by allowing them to live where they work. We are Democrats. We believe in the values of diversity, equity, and yes, inclusion. But we cannot be an inclusive county if we're an unaffordable one. Every day in the ER, I see where bad public policy leads to people seeking my care, and I'm running to fix those root causes. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is James Handley. I live in Ellicott City with my wife, Garima, and our 3 boys. I have a 5-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, and a 2-month-old. So it's the perfect time to upend my life and run for political office. But these are trying times that call for people to stand up, call for people to be fighters, call for people that share the values of our district. I'm a fighter. Every day I fight for Marylanders as an assistant attorney general at the state AG's office. I represent Maryland in state and federal courts. I even filed a lawsuit against Donald Trump to stop him from firing probationary federal employees. Before I was an attorney, I was an armor and cavalry officer in the United States Army. To put myself through college, to serve my country, I did ROTC in college. Within a week of graduation, I commissioned as a 2nd lieutenant. Within a year, I was a platoon leader of 20 soldiers in northwestern Iraq for a 10-month deployment. Upon our return, we thankfully brought everyone home. A few months later, I found out that my unit was going to deploy a 2nd time. Just so happened to be the same month that I was expecting to end my active duty service obligation, get an honorable discharge. I couldn't stomach the idea of my soldiers, my friends, doing a 2nd deployment without me. I knew it was much more likely that everybody would come home if I went as well. So I chose to do this 2nd deployment, this time to Afghanistan, and thankfully with the right mix of skill and luck, we brought everybody home a 2nd time. Here in Howard County, I've been active for the past 10 years in Democratic Party circles. No one's going to question my Democratic Party bona fides. I talk about the same 3 issues with voters every time I get a chance to. Fully good funding our schools, tackling affordability issues, and protecting our green and historic spaces. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for being here today. My name is Jean Xu, and I'm running for County Council District 1. I've lived and served our community for nearly 20 years. I raised my kids here, and I have fought for the issues that matter most to our community. I have the opportunity to serve on the Board of Appeals of our county, and also serve on School Systems Operating Budget Review Committee. Those experiences really give me a clear understanding of something very important, that the decision we make about growth directly impact our schools, our budget, and our communities. And if we don't plan our growth carefully and responsibly, we are putting pressure on our communities, on our schools, and on our infrastructure. It leads to deferred maintenance, overcrowded schools, and the long-term cost to taxpayers. So I have seen those decisions are connected, and why it's important to get them right. Those are my priorities. Fully fund our schools. We must fully fund our schools. It's not optional. And we must carefully plan our growth. The growth in the right places where the infrastructure and our schools and roads are ready. And we must always stand with our residents. I bring 20 years of experience serving our community, fight for our community, and I'm ready to continue that work. Again, my name is Jean, and I'm running for County Council District 1. Thank you so much.
All right, good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Awesome, that's so much better. My name is Jessica Nichols, and I am proud to run for County Council in District 2. I am a proud Elk Ridge resident. a National Board Certified Teacher, and your 2024-2025 Howard County Teacher of the Year. Thank you. For the past 11 years, I've been deeply involved in this community. I have served this community both in the nonprofit sphere and also in other spheres as well. I'm proud to have served as your founding board chairperson for Columbia Community Care. That's why I was a little late tonight. We are having a blessing right down the street to open the Source, which will serve this community, and it will serve the residents and also the young people of this community. But as the founding board chair of Columbia Community Care, I helped to raise over $1 million for this organization. And not just that, we fed over 170,000 people right here in Howard County, and every week we feed between 250 to 500 residents. So I know what it is. I know what the face of hunger looks like here in Howard County. I've worked in that space. I'm proud to tell you that I have the endorsements of 9 entities and people, including the Howard County Education Association, which is my very own local union, and also Dr. Opal Jones, who currently holds this seat. And, of course, the ethics ballot and people's voice. I'm running because I believe that county government should be rooted in people. It should be rooted in our community. The families and districts who are asking for stability, they're asking for economic stability, they're asking for housing stability. They want to be able to afford to live here, send their kids to school here. They want to be able to feel safe in their communities. On the County Council, I am going to focus on responsible budgeting, strong public schools, and making sure that our policies reflect the realities of working families and what they face every given day. I believe in transparency, accountability, and making sure that government works for the people. As I said, I'm not new to this. I've been doing this for 11 years, and I cannot wait to do this for the people of District 2. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Christiana Rigby. As we head into the 2026 election, Howard County is really at a crossroads. With 4 open seats on the council and new county executive, it's pretty important that you know I'm the only current council member running to return to office. So in a time of such massive transition and federal chaos, it's essential that we have experienced ethical leadership that hits the ground running on day one. And also I have to say, I'm really excited for all the candidates who are here and who are running, because I think it takes a lot to run, and I think it's going to be a really great group. So I'm looking forward to that. But my background is really as an environmental educator and a grassroots advocate, and that's always shaped my approach to policy and community work. I'm an empathetic leader who listens to our community and works in partnership to create progress. So whether that's working to unlock $14.5 million in emergency funds to protect our teachers, or passing the Liberty Act to ensure that every neighbor feels safe, and blocking federal overreach at every turn, or creating the very first office of the Inspector General in Howard County. My record is defined by ethical and transparent independent governance. My mission for the next term is clear. We need to build homes for people of every budget, every age, and every stage of life, and lower our household energy costs through programs like community choice aggregation, and move towards a sustainable revenue model that will fully fund our schools. I'm running to be the steady anchor our county needs to ensure that as we move forward, that we grow together. So thank you to HCCA for hosting this forum, and thank you everyone for attending. It's really great to be here with you.
Good evening. My name is Amar Naviwala. I'm running for the same District 3 against Rigby. So I'm a former accountant turned business person. I'll be launching a deodorant and skincare brand soon in April. I'm a co-parent to a 7-year-old, and I'm a Muslim democratic socialist. I'm running to serve the people, not corporate interests. That's a very big defining quality about me. I'm also publicly financed. That's also a defining quality about me. And I'm running to reduce APAC and corporate influence and special interest influence in our county, which is a huge, huge problem in our county. And the only way to buck that from our county is to work hard in the primaries as voters and make sure that we select our candidates very carefully. I'm also here to reform the Board of Appeals, which I think is quite influenced and taken over by corporate interests. I'm trying my best. I want to try my best, if I get elected, to stop plastics burning by WR Grace. I think that is a huge risk that we're taking to our health and environment. And I also want to reform our budgets very drastically so we can better fund our schools. Our schools, as everyone knows, are severely underfunded, including our teacher pay and teacher housing. I also want to find solutions for more affordable housing. That's a big issue I'm passionate about and a desperate need that we have in our county and with our people currently working and living in the county and families. I also want to try to create more living wage jobs and also allow our elderly to age in a more peaceful and dignified manner. I think that is a major, major issue in our county. Thank you so much.
So good evening. First, I want to thank you, People's Voice, and the Howard County Citizen Association, and everyone to participating. My name is Lin Pen Chen. I'm running for County Council District 4 because I believe the Howard County must recommit what has made our community strong. Create a public school system, safe neighborhood, supporting for resident in need, and the community where everyone belongs. Education is our #1 priority. I currently serve as a large member of a Board of Education. I see every day how much our students, teachers, and families depends on the decision we make. The numbers are troubling. In 2006, the county invested $71.2 million in school construction. 2026, the investment only $66.7 million, less than was 20 years ago. During the same time, the cost to build a new high school has risen from $34 million to $180 million, more than 5 times more expensive. After 2 decades of the inflation, the aging buildings and deferred maintenance, we are effectively investing much less in our school system than a generation ago. The path is simply not sustainable. The operating budget shows the same trend. The school system, the share of county general fund has declined from historic 33% to 46.2% today. And each percentage point is about $16 million. So funding directly impacts student pay, teachers' pay, staffing, special education, and class size, student support, and the safety. At the same time, our county population ages. We must make sure our seniors can remain in their home, aging in place, and a community with the dignity and support. So I believe the leadership is to bring people together. I serve as a facilitator, work with the resident, educator, business community to find a practical solution for many challenges we are facing. So thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jansen Evelyn. I also am a candidate for Howard County Council District 4. Very quickly about myself. I'm an immigrant. I'm a husband. I am the father of 2 daughters who are in the Howard County Public School System. Both of them are scholar athletes. I also have done a lot of work in the community for the past 10 years that I've lived here. I have served as I'm the immediate past president of the Howard County Conservancy, where under my leadership, we conserved over 70 acres and put it into preservation. I also have served as I also am serving as the vice chair of the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. Additionally, along with my friend and colleague Jessica Nichols, I've served in Columbia Community Care for the past 4 years since its inception. I also have done a lot of work in the community garden space, specifically focused on environmental and climate justice, where I created the first, the Howard County's Growing Food Together CSA. I'm sorry, my voice is a little off. Additionally, I have spent over 12 years working in local government. And at the time, you'll hear everyone talk about a time of transition. Yes, 4 seats on the council are turning over. But the reality is I'm the only candidate that has spent the past 10 years working liaison with various county councils. I currently am the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer in Anne Arundel County, where everyone will talk about we have to do reform around land use. We have to do the things in terms of implementing HOCO by design, the General Development Plan. I'm the only candidate, I'm the only person up here that has done this work. I have reformed school APF. I have reformed transportation APF. I have incentivized redevelopment. I have also done inclusionary housing policy with no fee in lieu. So I know to do this work. I've done it in a purple jurisdiction. Thank you very much. Hard stop, no coasting.
So my name is Kat Carter. I'm running for County Council in District 5, and if you know a little bit about us, we are over half of the district. So what started on me with this journey happened 10 years ago, when my son Atticus was told by the Howard County school system that double vision was not a vision impairment. And I found out that they were in violation of federal law. And then I had parents around the state asking me for help because their own students were being denied these services. And so as a result, I wrote several state complaints, and within a year, a state memorandum was sent to every school in the state. And then parents around the country were reaching out to me and asking for help, saying this was occurring throughout the country. And in 4 months, a national memorandum was sent to every single school in the United States to recognize non-acuity vision impairments like my son's. And then I had people reaching out, military families who said vision care was not being covered. And so I got a task force in a week and a half by meeting with members of Congress, just going down there and showing them the stories. And then I had soldiers reaching out to me and telling me that they weren't checking their eyes when they got hit in the head. And in less than a year, we had the MACE 2. Everything I've done for the last 10 years, whether it's passing the Atticus Act named after my son in Annapolis, or being the PTA president of Howard County, or being on the Maryland Board of Examiners in Optometry as a consumer advocate, I'm a Lions Club member, was because somebody asked for help. And that is who I am. I find consensus, I find solutions, and I listen. And that is who I am and what I will bring to as county council member. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, and that was very good. We are actually ahead of schedule. Appreciate that. So I'm going to present a couple questions from the People's Voice at ACCA, and then we'll move on to the public questions. And this will go to Kevin, of course, first, and the rest of you. What's the first piece of legislation that you will introduce as a council member in 2027, and why?
So one of the most important things that the county does is comprehensive zoning. I think we need to implement what we all as a county decided to do and agreed upon in the general plan, HOCO by design. The Spending Affordability Advisory Committee has talked about how the importance of implementing this plan to make sure that we're on strong financial footing. Because if we don't have appropriate growth of our economy, we're going to have to lead to either higher taxes or cutting of services, something that no one wants. So making sure that we have appropriate comprehensive zoning and we have appropriate growth in activity centers in downtown Columbia and places where infrastructure absolutely can handle it.
Thank you. Mr. Hanley?
Same question.
Same.
First, if my campaign manager were here, he would have thrown something at me. I received the endorsement of the People's Voice ethics ballot. Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting this. Also, Delegate Courtney Watson, who used to be on the council in this seat herself. First piece of legislation, I live on Centennial Lane. This is a busy street, 35 miles per hour, 25 when the lights are flashing, but I think we all know that that's not always the case. There are developments that were built, and we did not require that sidewalks allow the students that come from those developments to walk safely to their school, not on the shoulders of the highway, or on these busy roads. So the first thing I would do is make sure that there was a review of all of our school pedestrian access to ensure that any students who are going to be walking to school have an actual sidewalk. Obviously that takes a little bit of time, I understand that. But it's absolutely unacceptable that a county with our resources, a county with our ability to surge when we need to, is going to allow students to walk on the busy sidewalk or the busy shoulder of a road like Centennial Lane. I know that's not the only one where this happens. It's just the one that I see every single day. Thank you.
People know me, know that I'm a long-time school advocate. So school funding is certainly my top priority. And the first action I will take is to reform our budget process. I would like to engage a year-long conversation not just wait until the budget season. I would like to engage the conversation with our county executive, other council members, and the school board members, and also departments to truly understand their needs and their priorities and find a common ground to move forward. And also, I would like to plan a long-term school budget and county budget, not just fight year by year and struggle year by year. This is not a good way to go. And regarding the capital budget as well, how do we fund the deferred maintenance of over $200 million? That is something that we need to address immediately.
Thank you. Good evening again. The very first thing that I would do is I would look at our current social safety net programs that are being performed by nonprofit organizations. Every day we have dozens of nonprofit organizations that literally stand in the gap, and they perform very, very vital services that our government simply just can't do. And so every year we put these organizations into the Hunger Games. They have to fight for funding year after year after year, when we know that these organizations, not only are they vital, but they are performing services that we depend on. Organizations like my own Columbia Community Care, which is currently building a building, which has worked with our youth to reduce youth violence. These are organizations that are performing vital services and saving our county millions of dollars. So what I would introduce is I would introduce a bill that would give multi-year funding to these stable organizations that are performing these very vital services, so that they could get to the business of making sure that our communities are safe, that our people are fed, and that our vital services are continuing on. Because they're doing it anyway, they're just doing it with the distraction of having to take time, resources, and efforts to apply for the same exact grants year after year after year. As an economist, we need to streamline, and that actually ends up saving us money as well. So that would be the first thing I would introduce.
Oh, thank you. So I agree with almost everything that's been said previously. Comprehensive zoning is essential to getting past our current revenue challenges. And I'd also like us to convene a third-party analysis of our tax structures. In 2021, I believe I proposed a progressive recordation tax that would have delivered over $30 million every year to our school's operating budget. And I still think it's a good idea. I hope the next council will vote to pass it. But also, I hope that we have a third-party review that really takes a look at all of our existing tax structures. The state has allowed us to create progressive structures for income taxes. Those are things we haven't done and things that we could do. So we'd be saving our seniors and those on fixed incomes significant amounts of money through that type of reorganization. But I think it's really important that it's staffed by experts and not politicians. And then lastly, I guess the one thing is that it's really important we do this evaluation, because that's how we get out of this yearly budget struggle for our schools. Until we fundamentally change our inputs, it's a real struggle to change our outputs. So that's why it's so essential that we do this work. And then, truly lastly, I'm really excited to work with my new colleagues on legislation, because it's important to understand that this is not a group of individuals, but it's a body of collective action that requires working together to create success. Thank you.
I'm going to sit too. So I would pass a humongous first bill that would combine two issues. One would be a Board of Appeals reformation bill or legislation, and I would tack that on with the major budget amendments and reallocations for the current year's budget to realign it and to divert more funding to the schools. The reason I make it a humongous bill and force it through that way is to get garner a lot of press attention around it, because these are issues that need a lot of eyes on it, a lot of citizen eyes on it, to put pressure on the county council to be very careful in how they try to shoot down these amendments or these bills, or this bill. So I would try to amend and reallocate capital and operating budgets for the current year, And then the BOA reformation, if you guys are not familiar, that's the last line of defense for our county democratic processes. And that is the thing that has allowed the whole WR Grace plastics burning thing to slip through and allow corporate interest to kind of seep into our processes and allow decisions by the hearing examiner to get overturned.
I can start. I think this issue really dear to my heart. It's the top issue really just restore and increasing the funding to the school system. As I mentioned about the number, we need to restore the 53% of the funding from the general fund to the school system. And also we hear enough as a school board member about the school infrastructure. That's really from my heart. We want to make sure Centennial and Oakland Mill, both high school can renovate. People told me it's impossible. I want to make sure we can try at the best to make that happen. Thank you.
I'm also going to stand. So, question is, what is the first thing? So, the reality is, every candidate's going to say we're going to prioritize funding and supporting public education, and that's obviously a core portion of my platform. It's also why, in a crowded race, in the most crowded councilmanic race, I was endorsed by HCA and I've received the Apple ballot. Additionally, something that's near and dear to my heart is land use. As I've mentioned already, I'm the Deputy Chief Administrative Officer in another jurisdiction, a purple jurisdiction, where we've had to implement comp zoning. In Howard County, the next council will have to implement comp zoning. In Anne Arundel, it was called Plan 2040. Here, it's called Hochul by Design. Many of the policy orientations that Hochul by Design pushes, walkable communities, redevelopment, finding the ways to increase gentle density while preserving neighborhood character, focusing on preservation of our remaining green spaces. Those are the things I've already done. Those are the things that I'm doing. These are the things that I want to come and do. But my first piece of legislation that I will drop, and I've said it consistently about all of the numerous questionnaires that have been asked of us, is fix inclusionary housing here in Howard County. It's broken here. We have this fee in lieu where we do not get the units that we say that we want. I will do that. I will get rid of fee in lieu the way I did it in Anne Arundel County, and it's possible. And I've done it in collaboration. I'm going to respect that. I really want to keep going. I'm going to respect it.
So as someone who's passed over 5 bills in Annapolis, I do have a bit of, and some that I still am wanting to pass or pilot here. The one that's always near and dear to my heart is the vision. I am still receiving calls from local schools and administrators asking for ability to find a place for their students to get eye exams and classes. 2 years ago, the nurses' vouchers through VSP ended nationwide. And so now they have been relying on teachers to donate their own money for kids to have classes, and that has ended. So what I have already initiated in conversations with our federally qualified health center in Howard County is I want to provide an eye exam funding for an eye exam clinic in this county. And as a Lions Club member, we do a lot of vision, we do a lot of vision and hearing screenings. We've done it for grassroots. And there's nowhere to send those people. There's no way to send these students. So it's only a $100,000 upfront cost. I've already initiated a statewide grant that federally qualified health centers are applying for. And it makes the federal qualified health center actual money. It's a one-time cost, and they make $40,000 every year. So it can be continued, and they can serve the other students and other people in the community. So that's one thing, as well as other bills I could tell you about. But this one is what the school system is asking for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, candidates. And just a reminder, we're asking you to stand so we get you in the frame of the video.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. It's just Brent's like, oh, we're just going to see heads, and no one. That's not good.
It's a long week.
So I understand. It's been a long. And it's only Tuesday.
Check out the council meeting for Monday.
All right. Okay. Well, all right. We'll start with the next question that the ACC has, and this will go to Jean first. All right. So you understand? And I'm just going to answer. We'll circle back around to Kevin. Do you think the anticipated $140 million for the central library should be executed, or should the money be used elsewhere where possible, and why? Of course, we're in the library, what they're talking about. Wouldn't be here in a while. So, yes.
I thought James should be.
I think James already went.
I did not go first. I'm happy to.
Oh, yes. All right. Go ahead.
I went first nearly every time at the last forum, so I
sorry.
appreciate that I get to break it up a little bit.
You're right.
Um,
I'm off one time.
No, it's okay. So, as you all likely know, the vote has already occurred on that we're going to use this money for a new central library. I do think that a new central library is needed. However, I do have some significant concerns about the cost. I think, as has been highlighted by several members of of this group, that HCCA. Sorry. We have a problem with spending money when we have a huge deferred maintenance cost with the schools. We keep finding all these other projects to spend this excess money on when we should be focused on bringing down those costs so that school communities aren't having to fight against each other for these capital improvements. And until we recognize that we need to change our priorities, I'm concerned that that issue is going to remain, even if we are able to do the things that we all talk about with expanding our economy and expanding the pie here.
I love libraries. My kids use the libraries a lot when they were little, and me myself too. And I think a shiny new library is good to have, but it's not what we need at this moment.
Correct.
Especially during the time of the budget crisis happening in the school system. We need to prioritize our schools always. Because many families, I door knocked over 11,000 doors. Many families told me that they moved to this country because of the education. Even the empty nesters told me they want our schools to stay strong. So we cannot forget that our priority is always our schools. And when we have deferred maintenance, when we cut our teachers and programs and services, we need to rethink how we prioritize our funding. And we need to put our money where our priorities is. Thank you.
Well, sadly, the land swap deal has already been done. Howard Hughes is going to tear down this building, and we are going to need a new home for the library. The vote's already been taken. It's already, that part is a done deal. But what's not a done deal is, do we really have to spend $140 million on a brand new library? And I believe that the answer to that question is no. I believe that we could rethink this and utilize the money in a more holistic way. I think it's up to the next county council to do what other county councils have tried to do, which is hold this group accountable. And one of the things that I'm super excited about, because I am a nerd and I'm also an economist, is digging into every part of this budget and holding people accountable. I think that that's one of the issues that we have with our fee and lieu program, is that we allow people to develop and we don't hold them accountable for the fees that they're not paying. We're not holding them accountable for cost overruns. We are not holding them accountable, and we need to treat every dollar that is going out as a dollar that's coming from our most vulnerable, because it is. This tax dollar, every tax dollar has a name, and every name is someone in this county who could be struggling, who are paying their tax dollars but may not have food to eat. And until we start seeing every single project as something that costs somebody, then I'll sit down.
Sorry, I was just writing down some numbers for you. Oh, I will stand. Thank you so much. Though this is really sad, it's really not as much of a difference as I hoped. But I don't know if you guys, when you walked in, thank you so much, if you saw the sign that said elevator broken. Anybody see? Yes. The elevator here is so broken, it can no longer be repaired. So if you are seeking nonfiction resources, study rooms, other things, and this is your local library, you can't get to it. Also, all buses leave here. So all buses end up at the mall. And unfortunately, instead of expanding spaces for children, especially in out-of-school time, instead, many places have been shrinking them. And so I really encourage you to take a walk around this library afterwards, because its replacement has been planned for decades, because we've known that it's insufficient for the current community. Not even just projected growth, but actually our community members now. Oh dear, okay, I'm gonna go a lot faster. So, the major cost driver of the new library is the parking. And that is really where we have a lot of space to figure out how to structure that so it is as most cost effective as possible. And I personally am very excited to pursue revenue-backed bonds, because I don't think that everybody here should pay for temporary free parking on things like the 4th of July. So there's that. And then lastly, I'm very frustrated that there's folks out there who are pitting out-of-school time and enrichment for teens with in-school time. Few numbers: 50% Howard County budget, 28% state budget, and 0.6 from the federal government for education.
So I love that they asked this question, because I made a post about it on social media, because I'm very passionate about canceling this library project. I love libraries, I think they're great for our kids and families, socially, educationally, but this is a bougie library in a bougie area. It's lakefront property, it's in Columbia, probably next to the Whole Foods, that is overpriced, and the fact that they bundled it in the bill with affordable housing to kind of make it more palatable is disingenuous in my opinion. It's not the most efficient place to put affordable housing. So if these funds are only for capital funds that we can reallocate and not reallocate it to operating, like school operating, then we should reallocate it to things like our schools, like many of the candidates here said. I also made a calculation. If we can use it for other things, at $30 an hour living wage, we could provide 2,500 living wage jobs in the county to county residents for an entire year with this money, if you include the land cost in it. And there's also huge operating costs every year associated with this library as well. So I don't think that's an efficient thing to do. Even just if you look at the operating costs alone, we don't need more overhead and then associate more operating budget with that. We can take the operating budget and we can pay our current library workers, which we were already trying to put on the chopping block. So I think that's, yeah, that's crazy. 30 seconds. Okay. Even if you look at the efficiency of the parking space cost for this project, it'll probably cost up to $78K per parking spot. That's what Deb Young quoted in the press. So yeah, that's my answer on that. Cancel that library.
I think the issues are here, a lot of been said, but I just want to emphasize that the library, great library is wonderful. I think the kids benefit by it. But it's a want project. It's not a needed project. But you also, I think I have a big question about how the decisions made. Because community also voice, there's a different option we can do. For example, the mall, I think we seem to ignore and then we just try to push to the data front. So I think that's a process is not correct. And that's one thing I understand, making sure the county council not just own agenda, it's reflect the community needs. We are facilitator, making sure the consensus building and use the money is like the own money, not like printing free money falling from the sky. So that will be the motivation I will do that. And again, as a board member, I hear so much of the school needs. And when we compare to both sides, the answers are very clear. We need to make sure it's a transparent proportion. How much money go to the school system? How much money we spend somewhere else? Almost like some project really not necessary. And people will pay attention like the memorial, COVID memorial, why we need that. We need to save in the money for the critical impact of more students. So, thank you.
I wish I had more time for this question. I actually love this question. I actually love this question a lot. And it's something that I think when I am on the council, it's regardless of who I'm talking to, whether it's builders, whether it's the residents, whether it's advocacy groups like the ones who are putting on this debate or this candidate forum, I'll always be blunt and I'll always say exactly what it is, because we need to not just deal in what we think reality is, but we need to deal in reality. The reality is we have already done the land swap. The reality is, but if we go back, the reality is that we did not have to be here 5 years ago, there was supposed to be a central library because we have already had the need that this community has outgrown this central library. The current council member in this seat voted to ensure that the central library, which was supposed to have been over at Culver's Park, that did not happen. Had that occurred, we would not be having this discussion. So I want to make sure when we talk about reality, we want to talk about what it is. We also can't say that we care about education and we care about our children. My experience in the 10 seconds I have is that the reality is I never had summer camp. My family were working poor. The libraries were the only place that I could go. So if we have an opportunity now to create a space where we have the one urban core in the county, that people can be there and kids can go there and they can have safe spaces, then we need to find a way to make sure it's done. The Texas donut that they want to do, I don't think that's the way, but we can always deal with parking. Thank you.
All right. Oh, one more, I'm sorry.
Two more. So when I think about this, I am an English teacher and I lived in my libraries. In fact, I was a shelver in my libraries and I was there at the protest supporting the shelvers because I know how important it is to have that Curious George book on that shelf and having those books there. But I think about when I took a trip with my kids to France and we went to Versailles. And my kids, the entire time they're walking around Versailles, they were like, this is a complete waste of money. They did not need to make this that big. And I was like, well, I raised my kids well. So, and then when I came back home, my husband and I did a tour of the wing that is no longer there at the White House. And the entire time I kept thinking, this is what America is about. Simple, living within our revenue, living within our means. And I think that is the same mentality that we need to be bringing back to what we build. Yes, I've heard about the library and so forth, about the elevator. I bought a fixer-upper. I understand that we should try to find ways that we're being more efficient and fixing up where we can. But I also think about, as a teacher, we are literally letting media specialists, librarians go in our schools right now because of budget reasons. And going to school, not every child will have a parent who will take them to the library like mine did. But every child can have an opportunity to see their school librarian. Thank you.
All right, Kevin, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Man, I really wish I took the question first because everyone said variations of things I want to say. Christiana, District 3 took the parking issues. So this is difficult because every community wants to have great amenities. For example, I was just door knocking in Elkridge today. People are excited about the Elkridge Community Center, so am I. Other people in other districts might be like, why do we need a community center in Elkridge? Well, it's important because of people in the nearby community. In Ellicott City, we have the Middle Branch Library, which is beautiful, very nice. Elkridge also has a new library as well, and it's going to be expanded too when the community center is built. So I hate taking away something from another community. At the same time, the price tag is way too much. I support what Liz Walsh said recently regarding the library, that a large portion should be coming from the state. You know, Governor Westmore came to the unveiling of that. If he has the support, then he should be funding a good amount of the money. Also getting money from private donors as well. And parking is a huge issue, like Amir mentioned, $70,000 a parking space. And that's just not particular to this. Parking is extremely expensive. I highly recommend reading the book Paved Paradise. Yeah, or The High Cost of Free Parking by Donald Shoup, which I got from the library.
78,000.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to public questions, and Lisa will take the
I'm just going to try to
in the
run
front.
microphones to whoever
And
wants
I'm
to
going to
answer.
recount what I said earlier. Please be concise and precise in your question. You can state who you are, where you're from. And as you notice, time flies here. It's already 6:15. No clocks, but it's already 6:15. And we'll start with Ms. Zhu. She'll get the first. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Lisa Kraus. I'm a co-facilitator of the Stop Grace Coalition. And we are working against the plastic pyrolysis facility being implemented at 7500 Grace Drive at WR Grace campus because of pollution impacts on the communities all around. including Cedar Creek, which abuts the campus. And my question for the candidates tonight are twofold. Number one, are you familiar with the EPA corrective action issued in 1992 by the EPA for W.R. Grace for chemical cleanup? The last monitoring permit was issued in 2017 for that corrective action. That's W.R. Grace, right there on 7500. Are you familiar with that corrective action? Okay, that's a cleanup effort. One of the chemicals is the same chemical that was poisoned the town up in Massachusetts, upon which the movie A Civil Action was based with John Travolta. My second question is, what are you going to do to safeguard the health and well-being of Cedar Creek residents and all of the communities that are situated around this pyrolysis facility? It's a pilot plant. It's soon to be operational. So I want to know, what are you going to do to safeguard the health of residents from the impacts? And it will be a polluting facility. They've said as much. It'll have VOCs being emitted, and we're going to find out what else it's going to have being emitted. So that's the question. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the question, and this is really related to my experience, although I'm not familiar with the EPA Act, but I served on the Board of Appeals, as you know. I didn't get to hear this case because I resigned when I decided to run for this office because I feel there's a conflict of interest. So I resigned before all those controversial cases got heard on the Board of Appeals. When I served on Board of Appeals, I have consistently stand with the residents and protect the environment, protect the green space, and protect the waterways. I think those issues are very important to our residents. It's a health issue, it's an environmental issue, and I will continue to stand with the residents.
Hi. At 9 months old, I was diagnosed with asthma, and I have two different types of asthma. I have exercise-induced asthma, and I have chemical-induced asthma. My asthma is so bad that it actually drove me from a school that I absolutely loved to teach at because they did have mold that ended up exacerbating my asthma. So as someone who is an asthma sufferer that is triggered very much by chemicals, I know the deep concern that so many residents around the plant currently have. It is definitely something that I share as well. No one should be afraid to breathe in the air that's happening around them. No one should be afraid of the water that's flowing near them. I think that what we have is twofold. Thing number one is we have had a failure on the county government level to have open and honest communication with residents. We've had a lack of transparency.
It's not Mission Impossible, but
We've had a lack of transparency, and we've had a lack of accountability. And on the county council, I am the accountability queen. I believe that the buck stops with me, and the buck stops with us. And so none of these projects would continue without us having an open, honest communication, hearing fully from the residents, and ensuring that every concern was fully addressed with residents so that we can make sure that environmental standards are held and that people are safe.
I took a second because I gave you extra seconds because of your
Thank you. So, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Yeah. So very tall. So one of the things that I've done is to work with our state delegates, because one of the very frustrating parts about democracy, although it is the best system I believe we have in the world until we come up with a better one, is that different parts and different levels of our government are responsible for different things. So our state government has authority over education, air quality, criminal justice, and counties have the greatest authority before a building is built, before it exists. And that's the really frustrating part about the W.R. Grace situation. So where I think there would be a positive opportunity for the county to interject is that the review of the use and the expansion should not have been held administratively. It should have gone before the hearing examiner. There should have been a robust discussion, a robust evidentiary record, and unfortunately that didn't happen because instead it was handled through the administrative process. And that's a really, I think when there's important community decisions like that, it has to go before. And that's really what I think needs to change in that situation. Yes, yeah, thank you.
So respectfully, I think my opponent, her actions have either inadvertently aided or have not stopped W.R. Grace enough or the Board of Appeals enough from being able to maintain the hearing examiner's decision, because this did go in front of the hearing examiner. Then the hearing examiner sided with the residents, as they should. They should be protecting resident interests. Then the corporation, W.R. Grace, appealed it, went to the Board of Appeals, and the Board of Appeals, we know it's saturated with influence from the corporations, so that was overturned and did not side with residents, which put the residents in the hands of the courts, I believe. So I think that's a major problem. I would actually work to reform the Board of Appeals majorly. The other thing is, I am familiar with those cases. I've briefly looked them up. There was also coal miner debts back in the day at the hands of W.R. Grace. They have a track record of violating people's health, and then they put their justifications in all kinds of scientific language and make it sound like it's it's benign, and when it's really bad for people's health and kills people. 30 seconds? Okay. The other thing is, I've talked to one of the county council members' staff to see if we can revoke that permit, because that's what I want to target. I've been told by one of your allied staff that it can't be done. We can only reform the Board of Appeals, but I would be dogged at trying to actually get that permit revoked, because we need to stop that any way we can. So I would look as hard as we can in the law to figure out how we can revoke that permit. So I'm on your side on that one. So yeah, that's it.
First, thank you, Lisa. I think especially Lisa and Shanika showed me what's the issue. Seems the issue actually more complicated and more deeper. And the issue right now, the land is getting less and less, and we will encounter more questionable land. And then how the information holding up and then sell the house to the owner, that's a big problem. We have to make sure it's transparent, everything on the table. I think that's we definitely need to improve that. And I can see, Alfred, we will face a similar issue, the questionable land. In terms of that, I think I want to piggyback. We need a monitor. We have in the annual inspection based on the data. If it's a problem based on the EPA, then if it's against that, we need to shut down. I think we still have a chance to do that. So thank you.
Thank you. So you asked two questions, so I'll answer both. But first, this W.R. Grace facility resides in the Councilman District that I'm running for. I live in the village of Hickory Ridge. So while it is literally not in my backyard, it is still in my backyard. So this is something, and having two kids, one who has severe asthma, not as bad as Jessica may have had, but I'm very sensitive and I'm paying a lot of attention to this. But again, I will always be the bringer of facts. The reality is, W.R. Grace has been around over 50 years. W.R. Grace, one of the largest employers in Howard County. That doesn't override or supersede community health and public safety. This is a pilot project that W.R. Grace is trying to proceed with. I agree with several of these candidates when they talk about reforming Board of Appeals. But I want to make sure everyone that is following or may not be aware of this issue really understands. This is on two separate tracks. So we could reform Board of Appeals or the ZHE process all we want. And as someone who is a recovering attorney, I got my start in land use where that's what I did. I argued before ZHEs and Board of Zoning Appeals. So I understand that process. There's also a state regulatory process. This goes before the Maryland Department of Education. Lastly, they've also weighed in on this. Lastly, I'm aware of the EPA stuff. This is their headquarters, but their stuff has been nationwide. They have been historically a bad actor, but I don't just want to use that to say, oh my goodness, let's just rubber stamp and say no, thank you. It's the only time I will go over, so. The only time.
No judgment. So I was there at the rally and spoke, and I appreciated you inviting me there. And I think what that was so reflective of is, and I spoke about how the residents' voices were being heard, and that was a beautiful thing. And then I saw what happened at the Board of Appeals. And time after time, you were cut off. You were shut down. Information was not allowed. And that really, really concerned me, that the voices of the people were actually being silenced in the process. And that's why I do think reforms in the Board of Appeals needs to happen, because they need to stop silencing the voices of the community. I actually attended the Planned Howard Academy. Jessica was my fellow student, and I gained a deeper understanding of the time, expertise, technical analysis, and community input that go into the DPZ process. And that work should carry meaningful weight in the process. There's a lot that goes into it, and that is, I do not believe, being heard. So I think that needs to be part of the reform. I do agree that the statewide, I know that there is legislation that you are pushing for, and as someone who's seen the ties between what happens at a local level and what happens at a state level and what happens at a federal level, I think all of those mechanisms need to be happening at the same time. And we also need to make sure that this doesn't keep occurring for future residents, and that we are going back and we are trying to fix what we can in the meantime. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, go. Oh, is it?
Kevin.
Okay.
You're right.
I thought he was moving on to the next one. I wanted to give us a chance. So I'm going to piggyback a little bit about what Kat mentioned about DPZ. I was speaking to another council member, and DPZ is understaffed, and they did not do a thorough enough review of this case and let it pass through. Second thing I wanted to add to it, I was reading your website, and 70 yards away from this is too close. I mean, personally, I'd be extremely uncomfortable. I would not feel safe to breathe the air. This is $1 billion company. If they say it's such a small little plant, there's many areas that are industrial that are not very, that have significant distance away from nearby residential areas. I'm sure that they can afford to buy some of our industrial land and be able to do that pilot. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much for this question. In Iraq and Afghanistan, not the headline portions of what most people heard about, but during a considerable portion of the early years of the war into when I was there, burn pits were used at bases, which have then impacted upwards, the estimates are 3 million veterans that served on those bases. I'm one of those. I was one of those lucky few that were on the bases that are on the list. So when I hear about this issue, it's pretty close to home. I would use all means at my disposal on the council to get W.R. Grace, an admittedly large company that has national satellites everywhere, to move this project somewhere else. It should have never gotten this far in the first place. Once we had recognized that it had gone through the cracks, the council should have acted and made sure that this didn't happen. We just rightfully moved heaven and earth when we found out a similar thing happened with a private prison ICE facility. And I don't understand why there wasn't a similar outrage, a similar concern, and a similar push by all involved to get this reform to happen. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to the next question. And Jessica will get the first time to answer. So,
All right.
Hi, I'm Jake Einzer. I'm retired. I live in District 5. We've all heard about, and we all know that affordability is a big deal today. I saw this morning a posting with a guy holding up a package of 3 steaks, and the price on that package was $75. Okay, so we have a resource here in Howard County. We do have farms. And I'd like to know if you have any ideas of how Howard County can work with the farmers to address the affordability issues for food in the county.
Thank you so much for that. As someone who works in the food space, one of the things that we are very proud of is our partnership with Freetown Farm and other farms in the area. The partnership that we've been able to work with has delivered free produce to our particular facility, and then we use it to give directly to between 250 and 500 people every single week. And so there's a tremendous amount of opportunity in order to utilize that and utilize partnerships with farms in order to reduce costs. As the county council, one of the things that we need to look at is what are the needs. We need to understand how much need is there, and we can use very interesting things like grant programs and other programs to help subsidize the farms so that the farms can then grow more, and then we can distribute it at low cost or at no cost to residents so that we can defray the cost, the ever-growing costs of food. I will tell you, growing up, I used to tell people all the time that I grew up peanut butter poor. Peanut butter poor is where you have one jar of peanut butter to last you for 2 weeks for your whole family. And I grew up taking 1 teaspoon of peanut butter in the morning and waiting till we got home to have 1 teaspoon of peanut butter at night. Knowing that that's the reality of so many people here in Howard County is abhorrent, particularly when we do have farms and we have access to food. So I would work to ensure that we can make it financially feasible for our farms, but also deliverable to our people.
Couldn't agree more. So, sorry. So this is what happens after 8 years on the council. You're like, I'm wedded to this chair and I may never leave it. Those who follow, there's a lot of sitting. So what we've already done in terms of the county is that we've created a Department of Agriculture, or an Office of Agriculture, and that's really important because previously a lot of that farm support and connection and liaison was happening really in very disjointed ways. So we have our Roving Radish program, which purchases food from our farmers. It's pre-prepared meal kits that you can purchase, and even as a senior, you may receive a subsidy for them. And then we also have our mobile market, which purchases directly from our farms. So we're supporting our local farmers, and then that actually goes around the county, and you're able to, like asparagus, which by the way is considered a luxury vegetable. I know vegetables are luxury, but you can actually get it at Mobile Market for $2 a bunch. So yeah, I see some asparagus lovers out there. So you know, those types of programs are super important. And then lastly, prior to joining the council, I worked at the United Way of Central Maryland, and I specifically worked on healthy food infrastructure. A big problem at the time is that a lot of our pantries did not have refrigerated meats. Well, the time has evolved since 2012, and what we can do now, we can do grocery delivery. You know, we have seniors who are not mobile, who cannot get out, and really need fresh foods delivered to them. So that is also an option that we can pursue. Those are one-time capital expenses that we can boost our nonprofits and really connect with the community. And then thirdly, federally, this is a huge issue. They've cut off federal subsidies, so it's really important that we all band together now more than ever.
Are we supposed to go down to
Yeah.
sorry. I didn't realize it was a serial thing. So I don't know much about this issue. I was quickly Googling it, checking it. I definitely support working with you guys, expanding partnerships with the schools or whoever the purchasers are, making sure there's subsidies and financial help for everything from equipment to anything else you need, fertilizer, whatever it is, different inputs. But yeah, I'm definitely in support, but I need to learn more about the issue. I'll be honest about that.
I think from my side, I'm a gardener. I also have a plot. I think I have so much, it's not just food, it's education. It's a wholesome learning. You can so much by the gardening. I think that's a lot of opportunity for the local farm to help the residents buy local, and actually may not be that more expensive than the store. The positive side is also education. The resident can see from the seeds growing to the vegetable, and then nothing's perfect. Actually, the good things doesn't look shiny, but they are healthy. And also from the residents, regular one, we really need to promote the composting and the small plot if it's possible. That's also good for the mental health. I think there's so many benefits. And another thing is in terms of food safety, I think we need to, today we have the community garden opening. I think we should do a little bit more, and we can build a partnership with some power line. There's a land there. We don't eat the easement, but some of the area we definitely can develop more for people who need for the land plot. It's free for them. They can grow the vegetable. I think in the terms of poverty, healthy food is a bigger portion. You don't want to eat unhealthy food. I think that's the one way to break the cycle is to eat healthy and educated about what food and then buy local. So thank you.
I love your question. No, I do. So the reality is affordability is the singular largest issue that is on the ballot nationwide, federal, state, and local levels. So I use what's called an all tools in the toolbox approach when you're addressing the issue. Your proposal cannot fix that issue by itself, but your proposal is something that county government should be utilizing as one of the many tools. I'm not just a gardener. I'm actually an urban farmer. Like I told you at the beginning of my introduction, I co-founded George Washington Carver Growing Food Together CSA. And it was not just for the education and making sure that Black and brown families restored their historic connection with the natural world. It was that. It was also during the pandemic when we had food crisis. That food went to Columbia Community Care. My church, where I attend New Hope Seventh-day Adventist Church, I was also the manager of their community garden. I doubled that. And that food produce all went to Columbia Community Care. It now goes to grassroots. We have to utilize our CSP grants the way we utilize them to support the Department of Community Resources and Services. We can reimagine how we use some of that grant money to say, hey, how are we helping these farmers? Rogan radish is one example. Department of Agriculture, sure, it has to be expanded. We have to find ways to make sure that the farmers can afford to still make a profit, but then that food cost is being borne and carried on. I'm probably gonna make a post about this. Great question.
As someone who is from the western Howard County and lives amongst the farms, I love this question. And happy Agricultural Day, if you didn't know it was today. I've actually been initiating and actually been doing this. So the last budget cycle, the farmers came and they testified about how hard it was in that growing season, because as the Lions Club members and I remember, they had that sun rainstorm during the Howard County Fair, which I go volunteer at, and it just really just wiped out a lot of their crops. And so I went and spoke to the farmers after they testified, and I asked them what they needed, and they said, we need consumers to come to where we are and buy our products. So, and then I spoke to, in the parking lot that same day, members of the Howard County staff, and they said that there was a database available of the local farms and the farmer markets and the produce. And I said, well, that's great to have in a database, but can we create a tool like an app so someone like me as a consumer can actually utilize that? And just to let you know, that is coming out as we speak. That is happening, where we actually are creating a tool that you as a consumer can look to see where can you go help support your local farmers. Because as a small cybersecurity business owner, they want customers. They want customers more than anything. And with what they're facing with the fertilizer increases that are happening because of what's happening in the Middle East, they are going to be hurting and they need our support. And in addition, if you buy it local and fresh, 20% increase in nutritional value. Thank you.
So, like Jansen said, affordability is extremely important. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to bring down beef prices. It's kind of due to international markets in Howard County. That being said, food is extremely important, and there are things that we can do to make sure that we are, providing nutrition to our community. The main thing is making sure that we have organizations like Elkridge Food Pantry. Shout out to Marlene and Dan Derholtz who have been doing that. They don't ask anybody their income, just anyone can show up and get food. Same with Columbia Community Care as well. I learned about community refrigerators along Route 1 and other parts of Howard County, where anyone can go. If you can drop off food, you have, let's say you had a big event, you had a bunch of baked ziti, you can drop it off in the refrigerator and anyone can pick it up. So we absolutely do need to support ourselves, especially with the cuts to the federal government. About, I think, 7/8, I forget what percentage that is, of food aid is coming from the federal government through SNAP benefits. So we're unfortunately only getting about 1/8 is 12.5%. We're only be able to assist 12.5% on the state and the county level. But there are things that we can do, like those things I mentioned, Elkridge Food Pantry, Columbia Community Cares, and those community kitchens.
So I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this problem is going to get much, much worse before it gets better, unfortunately. Gas prices are going to go through the roof because we have a chaotic administration, a president that can't think through his actions before he does them. Does anybody want to guess what critical body of water carries about 30 to 40% of fertilizer internationally? The Strait of Hormuz. It's planting season in most parts. So food prices are unfortunately going to go through the roof over the next few weeks, months, maybe even through the year. So the county council, the county itself, has to start leveraging these resources, these partnerships that they already have. Something like with Freetown Farm. I was formerly on the board of CEI, who runs Freetown Farm. Those sort of relationships that we have developed over the last several years when affordability concerns were bad, we need to start looking at them and being proactive about how we're going to implement those now, because I'm deathly afraid that in several months we're going to think those prices are downright, budget.
Food security is a big issue. We have to address this directly. And the way to do that is we need to build a partnership. So I initiated a program under Chinese American Parent Association to send families to a farm in Baltimore County. It's called the First Fruit Farm, to help them harvest and then send those food to Maryland Food Bank. I think those are kind of partnership that we need to look at locally. And sir, do you own a farm or?
No.
You okay?
No, but I live near a lot of farms.
Okay, I do love to talk to those farmers and see whether we can establish partnership and collaboration. And also during the pandemic, I helped the YMCA distribute the food to those populations in need. I serve on the board of a YMCA, and I observed firsthand that how vulnerable our county is in terms of food security. And it continues to be so. I help the organization called ICA, Indian Culture Association, to distribute food as well. And if you see the long line, especially during the federal shutdown, thank you, and the long line we're waiting on the food line waiting for the food to be distributed, you will know that how severe the problem is, and we need to address that.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the next question from the audience, please. And this will go to Ms. Reed first.
Okay, I'll stop. Okay. So I'm Cindy LaFollette. I'm a longtime District 1 resident, lived from Ellicott City to Elkridge, and I currently live in the Centennial community in Ellicott City. I have an affordability question related to development. What specific legal changes or interpretations of zoning laws or APFO laws would you make that improve housing affordability without negatively impacting our schools, overtaxing our infrastructure, or the environment?
This is a question I think about every day, so I'm so glad you asked it. So, one of the most important things that we need to do is look at data. So, about 2 years ago, the school system and the Department of Planning and Zoning worked to find where every single student was coming from, every single housing type, every single location, every single age of the building, because all of these factors have a difference in terms of how many students are coming out of it. And so the good news is, now, you may have guessed this, but we know the students are not coming from studio apartments. They're not. The data absolutely shows that. They're also not coming from 1 or 2 bedroom apartments. And so when we're talking about how we fund our budget, you need to know that 90% of our general fund, which is the fund that supports schools and supports debt service, which is basically the payment that goes to our capital projects. But we need to increase our population. We have raised the property tax, we have cut services, and it is not enough. So if we do not start moving away from our historic lows, Because when people say, oh, in the 90s, we were building schools and there was so much money, that's because they were building homes too. Now, single-family detached homes do generate a lot of students. And with HOCO by Design, we're focusing on redevelopment. We're taking underused parking lots near train stations and turning them into housing that funds our community and doesn't overburden our schools where the infrastructure is.
Okay, so that's an interesting question. It seemed like it kind of bundled a lot of housing affordability with APFO. I'm definitely for protecting APFO. A lot of this HOCO by Design and developer kind of motivated policy that's embedded in our county. Unfortunately, I think that is more developer leaning and it helps the developers. It's kind of wrapped in the language that makes you want to jump at it, and people maybe think that if you develop more, your tax base will increase and you can fund more things, right? Like school construction and affordable housing or the housing trust fund or whatever it is. I don't think that's the case. I think the cost of creating capital space or physical space for a new student that is contributed by each household is very expensive in any given year. That property taxes cannot cover that. So I think we need to be careful. We need to protect our APFO, it's there for a reason. We need to increase inclusionary zoning. We need to help further support our ADUs with guardrails so investors are not sweeping in and taking advantage of that. And then there was a third one, I can't remember it, but yeah, it's something we need to be very careful about. Oh, we need to realign the budgets majorly. I can't emphasize this more. It'll help fund our schools from an operating and capital perspective. And we need to carefully look at our budgets. I don't think we can, with the affordability crisis, can increase taxes. I think the money is there. We just have to be honest about where we're spending our money.
So from my side, I think the best way to look at it is the mirror. The history is the mirror. So when I look at where I live, in North Laurel, last 15 years is quite a significant development. That my kids, when the old one attending the Hammond is only 1 or 2 for GT class, but now it's all of a sudden 6 portable. So the development is not very balanced and very. I think APFO looks good on the print, but it's not implementing properly. That's really the big issue. And another thing is to look at the redistricting just happened, and we always try to balance the socio-economic, but the problem is the development costs the concentration of the poverty. So I think in the future we should look at more balanced and more mixed in the development across the county, not just concentrated in one area. It really causes stress for the school system. And the Hammond Elementary School probably won't have any new until the number 43 new elementary school built. So it's been a while. I don't know, 10 years. The students have to wait. So we need to learn from that. Thank you.
So these types of questions are exactly why when you have a new council that will be implementing a general development plan, you want people that truly understand the issue. This is not just something you can Google, something you can put it on ChatGPT or Google Gemini. This is something where you have competing tensions. That is the reality. And affordability, that is the thing. How do we manage and address and confront the affordability crisis while trying to find ways to preserve what makes this community unique? How do we preserve neighborhood character while realizing that the way that this community has been designed on suburban sprawl does not make ways for the silver tsunami that's upon us? Where will you all go? Why don't we allow pocket neighborhoods? Why don't we allow multiplexes and smaller housing typologies that blend in with community character? They blend in with the community. This is something that I literally, when I ran 4 years ago, my beard was all black. It's gray now because I've spent the past 4 years working with all types of groups that I don't necessarily see the world the same way. GAN, Growth Action Network, that's the equivalent of HCCA in Anne Arundel County. I was their annual speaker. And the reason why I was their annual speaker is because I meet with them monthly, I roll up my sleeves, we have tough, difficult conversations. But when I initiated, and I was the thought leader behind our school APF reform, when I came up and crafted redevelopment legislation, when we came up with workforce housing to find ways to address the affordability crisis, those things didn't just happen in a vacuum. They happened with expertise and long, tough conversations. Hopefully.
So District 5 makes over half of the county land. And it's beautiful, and it's green. And it's something I want to see a lot of it for my children. When I first moved into our fixer-upper almost 20 years ago, I discovered that there was a developer who was trying to build on my property and was going to tear down the woods around me and the habitat. And even though, you know, we had small children and my husband was a government worker, we saved up and we slowly bought that land, and now it's all habitat. And I think about that when I think about what am I going to leave for my children. And there's something called APFO, Adequate Public Facility Ordinance. And there was just a task force that was done that a few people in this room were a part of. And I testified for that. And I said, I want to share a lesson I learned the hard way, because there was talk about getting rid of APFO. There's even been county council members who actually said they want to get rid of APFO. I want to share a lesson I learned the hard way. A few years ago, I tried to grow a garden and raise chickens free range. No fencing, no pesticides, no protection. I believed they could coexist peacefully with the surrounding forest. But the predators took the chickens, deer, bugs, and rabbits decimated the garden. It wasn't out of malice, it was just their nature. So I adapted, I built fences and netting, and now everything thrives in balance. But it requires careful monitoring and adaptation, and this county is no different. And so when we look at APFO, we have to make sure that we have guardrails in place for our schools and our community. Thank you.
I think Jansen said this very well, that there is a tension. There is a very real affordability crisis, both for the young, for the old. I'm the youngest person in this room, and I interact with people who are 10 years older than me. I interact with people 10 years younger than me. And the people 10 years younger than me are trying to get a hold of the American dream. You know, there was a recent statistic that there used to be, just one generation ago, about 25 years ago, there was, people could have buy a house at around 28. Now the average home buyer is 40 years old. There is a tension though with schools. Regarding the most recent APFO recommendations from the APFO, there is no one on both either the pro-home or anti-home, or however you want to classify it, who actually wants to implement these APFO changes. So I have no desire to make those APFO changes. Furthermore, our schools are actually having slight decreases in population. So APFO is, the purpose of it was to prevent housing in terms of, or slow down housing when we're building 5,000 homes a year. We're only building about 500 homes a year. So there is a very real tension. I also want to emphasize too that there is 91% of our tax revenue comes from property tax and income tax. And the pupil yield analysis shows that, you know, places like the Juniper just nearby, 0.03 students per unit, while a single family home is about 0.8. We should not be treating those things equally, and neither do other jurisdictions. We're one of the few jurisdictions that does it purely based on square footage. We should actually look into what does have an impact and what doesn't have an impact, or what has a larger impact or what has a smaller impact.
So I think something that can be done, and something that's been touched on, I'm not going to belabor the point since it's already been repeated, but comprehensive rezoning. We can make sure that actual lower income, middle income housing that people can actually have a chance at affording are legal and possible in areas where that makes sense throughout the community, throughout the county. I do not think we're going to solve this problem by building a bunch more $800,000 homes at 7% interest rate. As one of those people who was nearly 40 when they bought their home, I understand this crisis. Unfortunately, I think that while there's a recognition that there's both an affordability crisis overall and a housing affordability crisis specifically, the developers and the developer lobby are weaponizing this in an attempt to try to re-grab the keys from county leadership so that they can run the show, so that they can make the decisions, so that things like APFO get taken away. APFO was created in the 90s to set guardrails, to ensure that we didn't go overboard with development and that services, traffic, schools were overwhelmed. Those problems have not gone away, and in some ways have gotten worse. The idea that our school enrollment is down ignores two critical things. A, that might be a temporary blip from COVID. B, we're going to have a lot of pre-K students coming into the system here in the next several years due to the Blueprint mandate. Also, in District 1, the district that I intend on representing, there are several schools that are projected up for the next several decades to have overcrowded schools, overcrowding issues. So that the overall number is whatever isn't really that important to those families that have their kids going to this school and their kids going and being stuck in trailers all day.
I love this question, Cindy, because smart growth and strong schools always go together, and I worked both. So affordable housing issue is a real issue in our county. I have talked to many voters in my district. From young families who want to start a family here, and from seniors want to downsize, and those are the real people in our district, in our county. How to make sure they have the options. I think we do need to expand our housing options, but the question came down to where. We need to build houses where the infrastructure is at. And also, we want to look at the redevelopment site near transit, near employment, at the activity centers. Those are the areas we need to explore. We don't want to, we want to save the green space, and we don't want to change the neighborhood characteristics. So those are the questions we need to ask ourselves: where and how? And calm down the schools. The overcrowding issue is a big issue that triggered the redistricting and unhappy families. And we have to take it very seriously because we have such a frequent redistricting happening in our school system. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'm a teacher, and as a teacher, I work with the 40% of my educators who just don't live in this county. I teach with people who live in Virginia, Delaware. They live in Pennsylvania. I have a coworker who drives all the way from the eastern shore of Maryland because they cannot afford to live here. Our public servants cannot afford to live here. And so when we look at the affordability crisis, and I'm so glad that you brought this up, we have to look at what can we practically do. I'm also the mom of a 29-year-old. My 29-year-old is a first-year professor at UMD, and when I asked him, where do you want to live? He said, not Howard County. And so if you look around, that demographic is missing as well. And why are they missing? These are groups of people who don't want to have kids. Much to my chagrin, I would love to be a grandma. But they don't want to have kids, but they want to live near transit. They want to live where things are accessible. And right now, that's the type of housing we are missing. So when we're thinking about how do we develop, we have to think about, number one, how can we do things in a way that doesn't stress out our already overtaxed infrastructure? And how do we bring in those type of housing units that can help us to grow while always respecting who we are as a county and also ensuring that we're doing things in decency and in order. And I believe using transit-oriented development and other missing middle types is the way to go. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, everybody, and especially candidates for sticking to the time, because we only have time for one more question, and that will start off with Mr. Navawala.
I've had my hand up all night. I'm not trying to be unfair.
No, it's okay. I was trying to go with a hand from before.
This has been amazing for me because for the longest time I hear about, for the longest time I hear about how Howard County is one of the richest counties in the United States. Tonight I felt like I came to a funeral service. That, you know, problem with feeding, problem with food, farming, housing, and affordable housing, and I'm just, where's this coming from?
So it's unfortunate I don't get the chance to write notes down while other people speak, but imagine how we feel as candidates, right? Like, we are overwhelmed when we hear all these issues and see these issues and we have to develop answers to it. It is a lot. I think while we may have been a rich county and still have a lot of richness, I think given the national situation, that's gonna deplete probably. And I think there are a ton of people facing affordability issues, and I don't think we can escape it. So I think I mean, hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think we are in a pretty bad situation, or a situation that's going to get worse, and we have to prepare the tools today for what's going to happen tomorrow, and I think that's the most responsible way of governance. And I wish I had a better answer, more hopeful answer, but hopefully if we all can work together, we can do something.
It's tough for me to ask.
Yeah. But additionally, I think a way to solve this, I didn't run over time yet, but okay. I think one thing I want to keep reiterating is that we can get the most optimal outcome by all encouraging others to participate in the Democratic primaries and carefully choose your candidates, because right now there's a lot of corporate Dems and there's a lot of issues with them voting in favor on the county council or on the state level, federal level, in favor of corporate interests, and it's screwing us over. And I think you see that all over the news. And it happens also at the county council level for sure. So please be careful when you vote in Democratic primaries and get as many people out as you can in Democratic primaries.
Thank you. I think your question is not you alone. Many people facing a similar issue. Even though compared to the other neighboring county, it is doing better. But we are a very diverse community. We have people who have a bigger house, well-to-do, shopping Whole Foods. We also have people in need, from the school side, the farm students are always going up. The needs is there, and I think bigger picture, Howard County it's its own kingdom. We are connected by our state, our federal. Unfortunately, the last 5-6 years, we have a wave of disruptions. COVID caused the supply chain and the labor issue, and then right now we have the war. So that in the business environment, if you add to the disruption, the tariff too, everybody's saying it's adding the price, right? Passing down the customer. At the end of the day, the consumer should adapt it. So the best situation, we want to keep a stable environment, the innovation, the technology that can improve the efficiency. So I think, and also wealth distribution. If you look at the data, the 0.1% of America owning 1/3 of the wealth. It's a record. And the 90% of people only own 1/3 of the wealth. This is very unequal. This is the we suppose middle class, the dominant, then the society more dominant, but we are not. We are polarizing. That has an economic reason to drive that. So, thank you.
To my surprise, I've actually enjoyed this forum a lot more than I suspected. That was a beautiful question. And the reason why it's a beautiful question is because the reality is in every debate, in every primary, in every race, candidates are going to come and talk about the issues. And I think what you've been hearing are a lot of the issues that Howard County is facing, both in the short term as well as the long term. And so I hope that this was a forum where you did hear about some of those issues. But I want to also make sure that I'm running not because I'm afraid of those issues. I'm running because I know how to tackle those issues, but also because I know what I believe and what this community was originally founded for. It was supposed to be a beacon on a hill. I believe it has so many of those characteristics. My community is centered on village and community. The same village that when I was dealing, many of us at my age, I'm a few years older than Kevin. He didn't have to shame me with it. But the reality is, I'm part of the sandwich generation. My late father, who passed in September from Lewy body, I was taking care of him full-time while raising 2 kids. And that's hard, but that same community, the same people that I stand up and take shots, and I take shots from people who don't know me, but that community, that village, they're the ones that help me out. I want to make sure that I am able to come, bring my life, my lived experience, my subject matter experience, my professional experience, and my passion to fight for that same people. So my community is anchored in hope. It's anchored in resistance. Thank you.
So I've knocked, I don't know if anybody knows how long the driveways are in western Howard County. Believe me, the ice storm was something else. And the one thing I've done with knocking on almost 4,000 doors is that people, I show up, I got my cat hat, I got my cat shirt, and they say they've smiled for the first time when it comes to politics in a long time. And I think that there is absolutely hope. If I, as a mom of 5 children was able to accomplish what I was able to accomplish. That means democracy still exists. And what I've discovered in my advocacy of 10 plus years is there is a lot of helpers. There's a lot of amazing people in our community in Howard County, and they are actively working and advocating for our community. And I see them all in this room who give their time and their effort. And I think people see what's happening, and I think it's a chance for us as candidates, as leadership, to remind people of the community and the celebration that makes Howard County beautiful. Having gone to so many events and having met so many other helpers. And I think that's what we need also as we're solving and working and listening and collaborating on solving these problems together, but also celebrating what makes Howard County great.
I'm going to get a little technical while people were with hope, which I really appreciate. So one reason why we have budgetary problems is that for the public school system particularly, the state government does not give us as much money as other counties. So we actually have to pay 70% of the school budget, while some other counties actually don't have to pay any. It's completely paid by the state. So that is one of the reasons why we do have budgetary problems. Second thing, to just echo what Dr. Chen said, is that we are not our own kingdom. So Howard County is more than just the people who are literally classified under how we classify area median income, which is $140,000 in this community. It's the people who come from neighboring jurisdictions. It's more than 50% of teachers who come from other counties because they can't afford here. And last point is that this comes down to affordability issues as well, is that when you have an area median income of $140,000 and the average price of a home is $640,000, unfortunately, if you're making the median wage of the United States, which I think is maybe about $70,000 or so, that's not going to get you much. Might not get you a house at all. So this comes down to a cost of living issue, which is something that we can absolutely tackle on the county council.
So we are unfortunately in the same cycle that we've been in every Republican administration since I've been an adult. You write a huge tax cut to a bunch of people that don't need it, that all happen to fund your campaign. You then start an unnecessary and frankly stupid war in the Middle East, and then you have an economic recession. We had that with George W. Bush, we had that with Trump 1, we now have that in Trump 2. And this is after, frankly, about 50 years worth of gutting all the things that built up the middle class, that gave us the great prosperity of the New Deal and the Great Society. We are on the tail end of that. So I understand why you felt like this was a funeral. I see this as a call to action. We are a gifted jurisdiction. We have very smart people, very well-off people, although plenty of people that are still struggling. If we cannot untangle this Gordian knot, then what jurisdiction is going to be able to? There are any number of issues on the horizon, warning signs. Due to the great work that the county government has done related to ICE, we have painted a target on ourselves with this administration. Now that their backs are up against the wall with everything else, we might be Stephen Miller's next choice as somebody to go after, and we need to be prepared for that. We have any number of challenges, we can solve them. Democracy can work.
Thank you for this question. And I observed firsthand through my nonprofit works that our county has a very diverse needs. We're a wealthy county, but there are people struggling to afford food here, struggling to afford a house here. And my duty on the county council is to make sure everybody can thrive and every student can learn. And you cannot learn if you don't have food on your table. We have 20% of students are farm students, and I know some schools even they have more than 50% of farm students. And those issues are real. And as a community, we have talented, well-informed residents and passionate to want to help our community and how we use the resources in our community and tap on those talents to put our brain together and solve these issues. That is the duty I feel that as a council member should fulfill.
Again, thank you so much for that question. The reality is the reason why everything feels so gloomy and so hopeless when it hadn't before is because COVID was a really great revealer of some of the hidden problems of Howard County, particularly the hidden problems of hunger and the structural way that we have designed our county so that some neighborhoods have concentrated poverty and other neighborhoods have absolutely no poverty at all. And so with those things that are occurring in our county, it's incumbent on us to think about what was Jim Rouse's dream. I tell my students that Jim Rouse came over the mountains in his covered wagon and discovered the Valley of Columbia and said, I will make a utopia here, right? But how do we get there when we have such inequality in our county? Well, the way that we get there is by being very intentional on how we design the rest of our county. The great thing is we do have HOCO by Design, and HOCO by Design does have us work on ensuring that equity is the rule of the day. But I want to tell you a little bit of something about hope because I teach teenagers. And I know some of y'all sound like that's a little hopeless, but every day in my classroom, I see hope. Every day I work with teenagers who utilize their resources in order to help other people. I have a student that's designed a website that helps people who don't have money to be able to check and see if their lawyers are actually any good for free. That's hope, and hope is here in Howard County, so don't lose it.
Thank you. So you're right. Howard County, by every objective measure, is doing really well. We have a triple AAA bond rating. We receive awards from government finance organizations for our strong fiscal management. We also have won awards as Safest City and Best City for Women and a whole variety of awards. And those things are true. But there's also the principle of duality. And so at the same time, we really have this K-shaped economy that we're recovering from in COVID. So we have some residents that are thriving and some residents that are really not. Ms. Zhu mentioned that some of our schools have over 55% poverty. That's my kids' school. I volunteer there every week. These are not abstract faces to me. These are actual children who I know, and I know their families, and I pick them up and I take them to chorus tryouts because I know that their mom is working 2 jobs. Okay, 30 seconds. So I'll make it personal. I was born and raised here. My parents still live in the home that I grew up in. My dad just got a knee replacement. There are so many stairs in his home that it is a real struggle. And only just recently did we pass a law that would allow them to move in with me and have their own kitchen, which is a pretty essential thing to my mom. So these really aren't just abstract policy questions. They're, my history and my lived experience moving forward. So I'm just going to go over this one time because I think the other thing that you're experiencing right here is that people who run for office generally like to solve problems, and advocacy groups also want to solve problems. And so tonight we're really sitting at the intersection of that, and that's why it's been so problem focused. But I think it's really because we have to talk about the problems so we can solve them. So don't lose hope. Things will get better, but also let's be honest about our challenges and how we can work together to solve them. So thanks.
All right, thank you, candidates. I have one public announcement to make. Our President Stu Cohn and ACCA has been working closely with the new IG. We're trying to arrange a public meeting that all of you will be invited to and then come to and ask the IG questions and find out what her concerns are and where she thinks this new position in the county fits in making the county run. I just want to get that out there. It's going to probably be April, May timeframe. True? All right. Okay. You get 2 minutes. Best pitch. And you know what? We're going to flip things around. We're going to start with Kat.
So the best is no longer last. Okay. Kudos to everyone else, though. So 2 minutes. Wow. I began this journey back in June. I had a lot of people asking me to consider running because they had seen the successes that I have had on a national and state and local level. And when I decided to run, you know, my husband's here, and I appreciate him coming along with the ride and literally being my driver and knocking on these doors. And I think whenever I'm dealing with things like when I turn off the national news and I immediately go start door knocking, because that's really where it matters. I have talked to residents who are struggling to pay the health premiums that have increased this year. I've talked to residents who are struggling with their heating bills and their cooling bills and the lack of efficiency in their homes and how they can make it more efficient. Others who have accessibility problems and would like to move to some place, would like to be able to have the opportunity to downsize, but are concerned is that how much of that equity in their home are they going to have to give up and utilize that was supposed to take them through their golden and silver years. And so I've also talked to parents who are concerned about the schools and the fact that we have $200 million in deferred maintenance in our schools. And I'm going to be quite honest, when I got my fixer-upper, it was very daunting. I had no drinkable water, you know, no heat, but you know, you just kind of slowly look at the needs versus wants. And we really need to start looking at our needs when it comes to making sure we're not letting shelters go that are essential, and to making sure that we are looking at the deferred maintenance in our schools and our facilities before we start looking on taking on more capital costs and thus more long-term operating costs. That is the kind of mentality I bring and experience to this county council. Please vote for me. Thank you.
We're going to go on this. What's this big one?
Going that way?
Yep.
Oh,
No, go ahead.
Wait, is it me?
Is it you?
Okay. I thought it was me.
I thought it was me.
It's a test.
Now we can start.
It's a test.
Okay. I want to thank HCCA and People's Voice for putting this together. I understand that many of you that know me, that have Googled me, that have been to my website, I know many of you are like, I don't always agree with the way that this candidate sees the world. But the reality is, I hope that this discussion has shown you that whether or not we agree on the right on what particular policy choice, I've demonstrated that I understand these issues. I will bring a certain level of, I will bring a deep knowledge of these issues, subject matter expertise, and a history of doing collaborative effort. 4 months ago, that same group that I talked about, your equivalent, the Growth Action Network, that many people call the NIMBYs of Anne Arundel County, they asked me to be their featured speaker at their annual convention, or their annual meeting. And it was there that I went in what was supposed to be a 30-minute presentation became a 2-hour discussion. I live and thrive in those spaces. Maybe I get a sick fascination out of it, but I enjoy it. My reason for running is my life. Like I told you at the beginning, I'm an immigrant, I'm a parent, I'm a recovering attorney, and I grew up working class. I grew up seeing how people that had my lived experience, they were not at the decision-making table. I now am humbled to have spent the past several years working as a senior leader with 3 different county executives, Republican and Democrat. I know how this world works. I have been able to make significant changes within this world, implementing green fleet policies that made our Howard County's general fleet go green. I have done the work around redevelopment. There is a way to live within that tension and preserve the natural world, as well as make space for the people that deserve to. We talk about the pandemic and heroes live here. These policies that I put my work in, they're there to make sure that I'm speaking for the people that have not always had decision makers speak for them. Thank you for your time.
Okay, so really appreciate that. I think, for me, I just want to go back to my root and passion. I'm the first generation college graduate in my family, and 15 years ago, we picked Howard County because of the school system. As I do door knocking, I'm not alone. Many families feel the same passion. And I have 3 kids. One of them already from kindergarten, graduated from Reservoir High School, now in UMD. I see how amazing she grew up, and I want the future generation, they also benefit from the school system. Second one is a diverse community. That's also the second reason I come to Howard County. How can we live together, contribute together, bring all the talents together to create a better Howard County? How can we make the county stronger? I'm also immigrant. I look at this differently. I can from different angle. I can see the business we cannot do as usual. We need to be more creative. We need to do something different. We need to bring new ideas. And the most important things from the school board, the best the idea, the smarter people may not in this room. How can we engage in them? Make sure those ideas can pop up. And I can be the facilitator, make sure those ideas, because of our consensus, we coming together, make that happen for a stronger community. Thank you.
I have a long list here. So once again, get involved in your primaries, get people to turn out for your primaries, prepare in advance for the primaries, research your candidates really well. Also check their social media to see who they hang out with politically. That'll tell you a lot, surprisingly, as I've learned. Examine their views from these panels, get more people to turn out. I can't emphasize that enough. Also rally around your primary candidates. Make sure they have the funding they need if they're publicly funded. I know I need more public funding, and the best thing is lots of small donations because we get the best match from that, from the ZEF fund. On a positive note, and I love that question that you gave earlier, is that we can't solve everything at the county level. There's also federal and state issues here that we can more effectively solve these affordability issues at. For example, just to end with more positivity, we can lobby more at the federal and state levels. We can lobby for things like cutting the defense budget, which I know will be hard. We can increase infrastructure spending, build high-speed rail. We can expand out the urban sprawl and where land is more affordable. And if you think about that, there's a lot of implications to that. More jobs, cheaper land. We can more easily pay living wages to workers. Having more space for warehouses and e-commerce and whatnot. The other thing is we need to increase living wage jobs and support the working class. I think we have the money, we just need to realign our priorities. We need to support universal health care at the federal level, universal child care. We can possibly do that at the local level as well, and affordable housing. We need to have an affordable housing focus for sure, a very strong one.
Love that closing. So when I think about what I do and why I do this work, why I'm so tired already on a Tuesday, it really comes back to something simple, and that this is my home. It's where I was born and raised. It's where I'm raising my family, and I'm fighting every single day to make sure that it works for all of us. The work we've done together is meaningful, and it's made a real difference. We've increased housing for people with disabilities. We've secured strong environmental protections. And, as mentioned, very excited about this April-May event, we have created the first truly independent, it is literally the best model of an independent inspector general across the entire country. And I think that's something to be really proud of. And that's not a promise, that's my record. And the next term is really about going further with those things. We really truly do need homes for people at every age and every stage. So, stairs are not the obstacle. But we also can lower our energy costs through programs like community choice aggregation that focus on bulk purchasing and pass those savings on to our residents. And we also need to do a strategic capital investment that multiply returns across our economy. You may be surprised to hear, but one of our big economic drivers in Howard County is youth sports. Tournaments are apparently big economic drivers here. A sustainable revenue model that fully funds our schools is essential to our future, because our kids deserve nothing less. And I really want to thank HCEA for hosting tonight, for everyone who showed up. HCCA. Man, it's a tongue twister. And the People's Voice, who I truly enjoyed filling out your questionnaire. So if you really want to dig deeper into nerdy answers, their questionnaire is definitely a place to go. But thank you for everyone, all the candidates who are running, because it's really hard. It's really hard to run for office. And the folks up here really do understand that. But last thing I'll just say is that what you do is important, but how you do it is even more important. I believe in integrity, I believe in resilience, and I believe in the power of collective action. So by working together, we can get there. Thank you.
All right, this is the last time you're going to hear from the Teacher of the Year tonight. I just first want to start by thanking HCAA. HCCA, good grief, I practiced it, for doing this forum. Honestly, it was so important that I made sure that I was here. Sadly, I was the only one from D2 who came, and that should tell you exactly how I feel about community. I am your community candidate, and community doesn't mean that you only go to spaces where you feel comfortable, you only go to spaces where you know what the outcome is going to be. That is the model in which I am going to lead. Because the reality is the challenges that we are going to be facing this next council, all of us together, it is going to require all of us as a community to come together. Whether or not we have the same fundamental agreements or not, whether we see things from the same viewpoint or not, we need to come together. Now, I will tell you that I came here to Howard County because I'm a woman who fell in love. I fell in love with Wild Lake High School. I came here as a teacher with broken wings. I had just lost my mom to pancreatic cancer. She was my only parent that I had. And I didn't know if I had it in me to teach anymore. But when I came to Wild Lake High School, I found a microcosm of what I have found all over Howard County, is a community that loves, that is passionate, and that is accepting. I have found that love on every door I've knocked on, whether it's 100 degrees outside and someone said, hey, here's a bottle of water, or maybe you should sit down, or is your shirt supposed to be that color? I have found this love and this passion that's here. We are all here because at our core, we love this place that we call home. And I'm looking forward to fighting with you. I'm looking forward to fighting beside you. And I'm looking forward to coming up with creative solutions to the problems that we face, because we're all in this together. And I can't wait to get started. So vote for Jessica Nichols D2.
Thank you so much again for this conversation, and thanks to HCCA. Good job. For organizing this event and for engaging our voters in this critical election. And I want to say that I bring 20 years of experience to this job through my nonprofit works and my public service. And at the end of the day, this election is about who knows how our county really works and who will stand with our residents. And I bring in a combination of direct government service, government experience, and long-standing community advocacy, and hands-on policy engagement. And also, I believe this role requires full-time commitment, and I'm prepared to focus, to give it a focus and time to this job. And I will continue to stand with our residents, just as I have throughout my works before. So I will be very honored to earn your vote in June. Thank you so much. My name is Jean.
So the reason that I'm running, despite the fact that I have 3 young kids, is the only progress that we're going to make in the next several years are going to be at the state and the local level. And Democratic primary voters that I talk to every single day, they want fighters who share their values, that didn't change their values just because there's an open seat. They want people who are going to fight for them in a way that they know where they stand. For District 1, we're replacing a huge advocate for land use issues and for Old Ellicott City. We have to, if you're going to represent District 1, climate change, land use, and protecting green and historic spaces has to be at the forefront of your mind at all times. And that means standing up at times to the developer lobby. I'm not taking developer money. I am a CEF candidate, a public finance candidate. If you look at my financial records, you will not see developers maxing out at $300. There were no developer lobbyists at my kickoff as well. I think that weakening ABFO to try to solve the affordability crisis, that is real. is only going to exacerbate and make further problems that we can solve without doing that. I want to sincerely thank HCCA and the People's Voice for putting this on. I also want to thank the People's Voice for their endorsement, recognizing that I'm the best person to take on Liz Walsh's legacy. I hope that you'll support me, support the only veteran on the ballot in D1, support the only lawyer for this legal job in D1. Thank you.
I just want to echo what everyone else said. Thank you very much for the People's Voice and HCCA for hosting us. So I'm an ER doctor, and I mentioned that obviously. So we need a diversity of viewpoints. We need people who are going to bring different perspectives. I'd be the first medical doctor on the county council. I'd also be the first Asian American person on the county council of a county that's 20% Asian American. As an ER doctor, I need to have conversations with every single field. It's actually the only medical field that does that. I even talk to dentistry. We don't learn much dentistry in medical school, but I have to talk to them as well. And I have to have tough conversations too. It's not easy to have conversations, to call somebody at 2 a.m. in the morning and wake up a specialist. It's not easy to deal with somebody when they're going through the throes of a crisis or in severe pain. I know how to have those conversations, and I'm willing to have those conversations with people even if they disagree with me. Lastly, the ER doctor is a bit of the jack of all trades, and I think these skills are translatable. Furthermore, also, we're constantly prepared for emergency. We don't know what's going through the door, and we don't know what's going to happen in the next few years in the county council. Something that really hasn't been discussed is AI. How is that going to implement? How is that going to change? How is it going to change schools? How is it going to change our government? But there might be something further down the road. So as an ER doctor, I'm prepared for everything, and on the county council, I will be as well. Thank you.
All right, very good, everybody. Thank you for sticking to the time. Great questions, audience. Kept things concise and tight. It helped us get through our tight schedule tonight. Thank you very much. I want to thank Brent, Paul, Lisa, Christy tonight for their help, putting this together, setting up chairs, holding the time cards up, all that stuff. It all goes together and making things work. I do ask when you kind of leave fairly quickly, because we do have to, we got to tear this room down. And ideally, go out that door, not this door. But yes, I'm sure you can spend some time in a lobby and talk to the candidates, and maybe they'll go somewhere else we can talk to you. But I greatly appreciate all your time, candidates. I know this is a run and a difficult time for you to try to be every place all the time. Thank you.
And thank you to Howard Johnson, who's HCCA board member, for his moderating tonight. Thanks, everybody.